gonna be long? What's that? Your briefing gonna be long?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Glasgow City Council meeting for this Monday night. Let's begin by standing and pledging to our flag. You ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are going to ask Councilmember Marion to lead us in the invocation, please.
Would you pray with me? Dear Lord, thank you for this beautiful day that you bestowed upon us. Be with the men and women that are fighting overseas to protect this wonderful country of ours, to allow us to continue to live the way we do. Be with those that are lost. Just try to help us be more like you, dear Lord. If there's any health issues that need taken care of, be with those folks that are dealing with that as they try to get a good prognosis and good results. These things we ask in thy name. Amen.
Thank you, Max. Be seated. I'll ask City Clerk Mona Simmons to call the roll.
Benil.
Present.
Gaunt.
Yes, ma'am.
Kirkpatrick.
Yes, ma'am.
Lowry. Here. Marion.
Here.
Neal.
Here.
Norris.
Here.
Trigg.
Here.
Witcher.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for being here tonight. And we will move forward by looking in your packet that you got back on Wednesday of last week. We want to establish the agenda for tonight's meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
Motion. Second, Lowry.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Councilman Lowry. Is there any discussion?
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to include amending the interlocal agreement with the BCA to make the city of Park City a member.
Okay. All right. Let me tell you, first of all, I've got a motion. This is let me see if I can explain this. The city of Park City is going to become a voting member of the Barren County Economic Authority. The way that works is that each of the other authorities have to approve that. They meet on Friday of this week, but getting them approved didn't make the agenda because of the early agenda last week. So the amendment by Joe is for us to amend our agenda tonight to where we will consider, and do you have that?
I've got the information.
The information?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
But Mayor, from a parliamentary procedure, I think that Ms. Kirkpatrick made the motion to approve the agenda as presented. Mm-hmm. Got a second on that, and then Mr. Trigg's motion would be a motion to amend Ms. Kirkpatrick's motion to add this item.
Okay.
So we'd need a second on Mr. Trigg's motion.
Benil, second.
All right.
Okay, all right. You got that, Mona? Mm-hmm. Okay, all right.
And then, Mayor, we would vote on the motion to amend first.
Okay.
And
All
then
right.
vote after that.
Okay, all right. See what holidays does for us? First thing, we want to vote on the motion to amend the agenda for tonight. And I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. And then I will entertain a motion to amend the agenda that was approved to include Councilman Trigg's addition to the agenda.
Motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Kirkpatrick.
Okay, motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Is this
I don't know if it makes any difference, but I mean, is there a layout of what Barren County pays, Glasgow, Cave City, Park City?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming it'll just be under the same guise as all the other entities, but I was just
Right.
curious. I haven't seen anything on it. I know that it's been in the works, but
Yeah.
I just didn't know how much, if they're paying, like if based on population, or I just didn't know.
I can tell you that when we get to that point, but I mean, but yes, we've got those numbers.
All right. Okay, so we have the motion and a second. All in favor of amending the agenda indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Rich, you want to talk talk more about that?
So, at the April 12th, 2024 Barren County Economic Authority meeting, the authority board recommended to each of the existing entities that are participating in the Economic Authority that Cave City be allowed to be a voting member of the BCEA, and the rate of their contribution would be the same as Cave City, which is $2,000 per month, and that they sign on to the terms and conditions of the existing interlocal agreement.
As far as the votes on it, Bridge, and I should know this, but Cave City and Glasgow, Barren County, I mean, do they each have equal votes or
The Cave City and Park City would each have one vote. Glasgow and Barren County have additional votes based on their appointments.
three on each one? of those?
Right, correct.
So 8 total?
Yes,
So you'd just be adding
one more, that's right.
So you understand the
So-
discussion. So,
So the motion, what we would need would be a motion to accept Cave City as a voting member at, or Park,
City.
I keep saying, Park City, thank you. Adding Park City as a voting member at the rate of $2,000 per month, and that they be required to sign on to the existing interlocal agreement.
A motion, Benel.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion about this?
So Park City pays the same as Cave City?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
with there being,
That's my understanding. I think that's
Yeah, I
right.
believe that's right.
with there being 8 voting, and if it comes down to 4 and 4, who determines the outcome?
Right now, the chairman does not vote, so if there was a tie, then the chairman would break the tie.
Which would be David Peters. All right, you understand what's before us? All in favor of doing so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The motion carries. Now, we've got the agenda amended, so let's move to the first item of the approved agenda, which is to approve the minutes of the last council meeting. You had these minutes in your packet, and I will entertain a motion that we approve the June 24th minutes as presented.
Motion?
Okay, from Councilman Marion, is there a second? Second from Councilman Witcher. Any discussion on those amendments? I mean, on those agenda items and the minutes? All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are approved and in the record books for the minutes of June the 24th. Is that good? We're going to move now into, I always really enjoy this part of the meeting because we always learn something. We're going to learn about the Glasgow Electric Plant Board. Our annual department presentations continue, and we have Mr. Dave Puskala here. Dave is the superintendent of the Glasgow Electric Plant Board. Dave is with us. He's left some materials on each of your desks. And Dave, we're glad to have you here tonight. We want to hear some good things about the Glasgow Electric Plant Board, sir.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. Appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to the city council. This is actually my 3rd year now reporting to you, so my accent hasn't really changed much, so I still sound like a northerner, but usually our reports have been a little earlier in the year. This one's a little bit later, so there's a little bit more complete information on the financial side. But first of all, just a couple of topics. Introduction, I'll share some statistics with you, give you a financial update, and then just talk a little bit about our electrical system upgrades. And we have the EV charging stations that I've talked about probably at the last meeting, and our fiber to the home project, and then some time for any questions. So just as a brief introduction, once again, my name is Dave Puskala. I'm the superintendent of the Glasgow Electric Plant Board. I started September 13th of 2021, so I guess I'm coming up on finishing my 3rd year. We have 5 board members. Glenn Pritchard, which you renominated in January, continues as the board chairman. Keith Rowlett is one of the board members. Chastity Lowry is the council representative on our board. Troy Stevens and Robert Oliver are the other board members. And then Ron Hampton is our attorney. One thing I'll say about our current board is it's just a great group that works together, asks a lot of questions, very supportive of what we're trying to accomplish at the plant board, which really are reliable electric and rolling out the fiber to the home project. Those are the two main initiatives that we have going, but it's been a really good last, I would say, year and a half with the board that we have. It's been very good to work with, so hopefully that continues. Just some quick statistics. On the left-hand column is May of 2023, and the right-hand column is May of this year. So you can see we've increased our total electrical customers by a few, roughly 48 or 38, I should say. And then some of those are residential. We've had quite 20 additional commercial meters, some additional street lights. One of the negatives is the cable and video business is really changing, and we're continuing to lose subscribers. One of the things I would like to at least point out to the city council is that the cost increases that you see the EPB put out there, or even South Central, or any cable TV, it's really been driven by the programming. Our cost to serve our subscribers on the communication side is somewhere in the $30 to $32 a subscriber, and of course as the number of subscribers goes down, that cost per goes up, but our costs have been staying relatively flat for quite a few years. And there was a time when we were losing money on just the programming. So let's say we were selling a package for $80, it was costing us $82, so that we were actually better off if we lost a customer, because we would save that $82 even though we lost the $80 in revenue. Just an upside down business. We've had to put some price increases through in order to correct that, because we really don't want to lose money on that, just on the programming. And it tends to be tough on the customers that we serve. But we've really made, I've made that decision that we're going to slowly get the margin, the difference between our programming cost and our revenue where it needs to be. So we're going to be, looking at another increase this year, unfortunately. I don't know what it is yet, but that's, the programming costs, and they're not like cost of living programming costs. We're getting 10%, 12%, and what the reality of the business is that the programmers don't deal with the end user customer. When we raise the rates, we get the phone calls. They're just in the back, turning the knob, so to speak. So anyway, it's a tough part of the business. Broadband, we've lost some subscribers there, but that has trended after COVID. A lot of people backed off on internet service. I think what we're going to see as we finish our fiber project, we'll see those numbers start to increase again. Next next slide is the financial update. If you look at the bottom line in the black with the white numbers, you'll see the change in net position, which is essentially net income, is staying fairly consistent from year to year. And that should be the same again for the year ended June 30th of 2024. The electric tends to change with the fuel cost adjustment and some of the weather. If you look at the electric revenue this year is forecast to be $25,842,000. It's down roughly $3 million from last year. We've had a couple of industrial customers that have backed off on their usage, but it's also somewhat weather related. So broadband, if you look at June 30th of 2021, 9 million. Each year since then it's dropped, and that broadband number includes cable. So as we lose cable subscribers, and it's included in there. The broadband, like I said, really peaked in 2020 with COVID when all the students were home. A lot of people that didn't have internet previously had it, and a lot of grandparents, I think. And since then, some of them have backed off and just used their phones or whatever. Going further down, you've got, while our total revenues are in that 34 to 35 million, peaking at 37 million last year, and we forecast to be down around 34 million again this year. And then you have our power cost of sales, the cable programming and bandwidth is in that next line. And then other expenses is basically the overhead. So a lot of information in just a few numbers, and if anyone ever has any questions, wants to dive into it deeper, feel free to give me a call, stop by. We can go through some of that stuff in more detail. Moving on to the electric system upgrades. In the year ended June 30 of 2024, we did 102 pole replacements and installed 51 new poles. We've also added 18 new single-phase transformers, 11 new three-phase transformers, and then we upgrade if a customer is growing, we'll upgrade a three-phase transformer. It takes a long time for us to actually downgrade the size of a transformer, too long, but with the cost of transformers these days, it's now become more efficient for us to spend the labor to take a transformer out of service that's being underutilized and replace it with a smaller one so we can have the bigger one in stock to use someplace else. Transformers are relatively cheap, 6 or 7 years ago, and it didn't really make a lot of sense to spend the labor to do that. And then I talked more about switches last year, but we're continuing to add switches to the network to be able to better sectionalize the electric system when we have outages. So a couple of interesting items. The EV charging stations on the next slide, slide 7. So last year I talked about it that we had approved it and it was getting built. Those stations went live November 5th of 2023. And just some statistics, since we went live, we've had 340 unique visits, so that's an average of 42 a month. Customers from 23 different states. So that's part of, I think, the success story of these EV charging stations, which I'll get into more in a minute. 234 hours of total charge time, which averages 41 minutes per visit, and 10,000 kilowatt hours of energy consumed. One other thing I'll point out is that in June we had 94 unique visits with 66 hours of charge time. So the month just ended June 30th, which the previous high months were 49 visits and 33 hours of charge time in April, and May had 47 visits and 34 hours. So the visits doubled and the charge time doubled in June from the previous high months that we had. This morning when we just looked at the numbers we've already had in the month of July as of this morning, so basically 7 days, 34 visits in July already. So over the holiday weekend, the stations were busy. So I would say that the great part about this story is that TVA had a program that kicked in 80% of the cost to put these stations in. We worked with the city on a location, and the city provided a little bit of funding, and then the EPB, funded the rest. But it was really just a good project of all of us working together to get it done. And I think it's accomplishing what we want it to. It's bringing people downtown. They're down behind the cultural center, and it's a nice flat parking lot, not too far from the square. And I think it really has accomplished what we hoped to, which is to have charging stations downtown, see what happens. Now we have real-time data for the EPB, so we kind of know when these are being used and how they're being used, instead of trying to cipher through information from others that install these stations. We have first-hand information, so it's really been a good project. And I think all of us that have been involved with it are pretty surprised at the level of usage. I didn't know what to expect. I thought there would be, usage pretty consistent, but 94 visits in June is, that's real activity. And like I say, 34 already in July, so. And then finally, the fiber to the home project. So in late 2022, the EPB's board approved the first phase for our fiber to the home project. The concept to build the whole city was approved as well, but the funding was approved for phase one. And we passed roughly 1,100 meters in phase one, and it's on what I refer to as the southwest side of town. It's over by our EPB office and Red Cross School. The area that includes somewhat of Cleveland, but mainly I would say south of Cleveland and west of the 31 bypass. And so we passed 1,100 meters, and we have close to 800 customers on the fiber to the home system. So that's a 73% penetration rate. Just a really, really good success. We've seen, and customers are very happy with that, with what we've done. Then we're going to do this in 4 phases, but as we got into phase 2, we had conversations with staff and then with the board of really it was time to take what we learned in phase 1 and just build the backbone throughout the rest of the city. So we went from calling it phase 2 to phase X, and you'll see some advertisements on billboards. We're calling it phase X. And what phase X is it's building basically the backbone and arteries through to pass the rest of our electric meters. And that's probably going to be done by the end of the year. It's really being built fast. It's probably going to be done before the end of the year as far as the backbone. But then splicing has to follow that, and then we have to install drops to every house. And then once the customer is ready, we have to install the Wi-Fi equipment and the equipment that goes inside the house. So there's several steps, but we're hoping to have most of the city able to get fiber to the home if they want it by the end of 2025. We connected our first customer on Friday to the phase X. So phase 1 is done. We have close to 800 customers connected to phase 1. We connected the first customer to phase X, so basically the next phase, on Friday, and it was the airport. They're the first customer, and now it's going to be a little bit before we get any others connected, but so that's rolling really well. And that is about all I have but I would like to open it up to questions if you have any questions.
Dave, as far as streetlights go throughout the city, have we transferred most of those over to LED lighting?
Most are LED, yeah.
Okay. So what percentage do we still lack on that?
I don't have the exact percentage, but it's pushing 70 to 80%. I can get you a more exact number, but yeah, we're well on our way to getting most of them done.
Okay. The timeline would be in the next 12 months to be at 100%?
I would say for sure, yeah.
Okay, very good. How's our relationship with TVA?
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
And on the TVA front, of course, we had the rolling blackout in Christmas of, I guess it was a year and a half ago, or almost 2 years ago now. And then this past January, we had, calls for curtailment. With all of the heat that we've had, there hasn't been any curtailment. They're doing a lot of work to get the generation ready for whatever comes. It's when you look at TVA's information, there was a 10-year period where there was no growth. When the housing crisis hit back in 2008, TVA's load dropped pretty significantly. It stayed flat until somewhere in 2020 or 2021, and unforeseen to really anybody, everyone started to want to be in the valley, and there was never a plan for this sort of growth that we're seeing. So they've quickly responded, and we're in solid shape there.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions?
Dave, I got a couple of questions. questions, and you can help me out here. And it's all got to do with the new fiber to home project. And as you and I personally talked about, and as this council has talked about, as we move from fiber, well, first of all, broadband customers were going to go down. We saw that as realistically a dead-end business, GEPB. So to move to fiber is going to hopefully entice those folks, the ones we potentially were losing. So are we gaining right now, once we finish putting fiber everywhere, we will have the potential to gain customers, say from FREC or
Yeah.
SCRTC?
Yeah, in phase one, we actually have added new customers, which is, not a trend we're seeing in the rest of the city. But in phase one, where it's complete, we've added, I think, 10 or 11 new customers that came over from other providers.
And we also talked about there's going to be two types of fiber, or two levels of fiber options available.
There'll actually be like 4 packages. And price-wise, we have 3 speed offerings in our hybrid fiber coax system right now. And those 3 speed options that are available on hybrid fiber coax are lined up with a fiber offering, and customers are just being migrated to the same price, basically. So they'll pay the same initially as we just migrate them to fiber, and their speeds will be greatly increased.
And per our conversation, we talked about we needed to emphasize that more to the customer base, that as you move forward and as we move forward with the fiber program, they're not going to incur a new increase.
Right.
And the rate is going to be pretty close to the same as what they're already been paying.
Yeah.
In most cases, it'd be less.
That's definitely the goal. And customers that were happy with their speed before can actually save money by dropping to our lowest fiber speed, still be faster than they ever were, but save money.
And then all businesses will have the option of the top level.
Yeah, we have a 1 gig offering that's for consumer, residential or businesses, and we're working on a faster package than that too. But right now, 1 gig. Most equipment can't even really make use of 1 gig service.
So for the everyday customer, I think maybe, again, per our conversations, they need to understand that as everything goes toward more streaming, then now with the fiber offer that you guys are offering, then they have more connectivity and a better service.
Yep.
And that'll be compatible. So say if we're buying 15 different TV streaming now, by the time we finish doing this, the packages that we acquire will first off be better received and probably a reduction in our costs.
Mm-hmm.
Versus what we're paying for those same packages through EPB and the broadband.
Yeah, so we'll take a little deeper dive into this right now. The fiber optic network is a passive optical network, and for that reason, it's more stable. If we have power at the head end, which we better, it's backup generation and all that, and the customer has power at their home, there's nothing in between that will stop the signal from working. So right now, we have amplifiers and we have different pieces of equipment to keep boosting the signal out in on our hybrid fiber coax system. So if we have a power outage in a certain spot, the customer might have power at their home, but the internet or cable TV isn't working, because of the outage at that piece of equipment. Or the equipment gets damaged by lightning. It's a lot more susceptible, where the fiber is glass, and there's no active equipment between the head end and the customer's premises. The other reality is that for really a better package of channels from, say, YouTube TV or Hulu, for a better package of channels, the customer can pay less retail than what we're paying on the wholesale side for the programming. And And that's just a reality. It's a crazy reality. I don't know exactly why it is, but that's the reality. And when we tell customers that, you know, they really, they don't believe us. But it is. I mean, so what we are encouraging customers to do is to look to stream. And if anyone is streaming, you know, Netflix or Amazon Prime already, streaming something like YouTube TV or Hulu TV, there's different offerings out there, is really no more difficult than just going to, you know, one of those apps. Because then when you get to YouTube TV, it looks a lot like cable TV does now. You have the same, you can scroll through channels and choose the channel once you get into the app.
And I'm glad you said that, because one of the biggest issues is for the customers. We got half the community, they want Louisville stations, Louisville local news. We got the other half that wants either Bowling Green
Or Nashville.
and we kind of held hostage
Yep.
by Bowling Green. So
Yep.
this right here gives us the capability to don't want to say circumvent, but bypass that.
Yeah, and I'm assuming it does. I don't know exactly the details of how it works with, you know, with the streaming packages, but
So then they would have to raise their rates. So say WBKO down in Bowling Green decides, say to your
Yep.
broadband board, they come to you and say, well, we need to increase our rates. Now they would have to go and say that to Netflix. They probably won't stand
Right.
as much success
Yeah.
increasing their rates with Netflix as they do with you guys.
Right. Because that's right, we're dealing with the local, you know, Bowling Green. YouTube is dealing on ABC or NBC or CBS on the national level, and it's just a totally different ballgame. That's why the package is cheaper. So bottom line is we're encouraging customers to stream, and, you know, they look at us funny, but we really would like to be the pipe to the home and have customers stream. We're going to stick with cable as long as it is viable, but there's going to come a day when it's just not going to be viable, you know, and it's going to be somewhat self-fulfilling. You know, it's not going to be driven by us. It's going to collapse on itself, I think, at some point.
The last question is are we going to have the redundancy with the fiber that we have with electricity? So we have two so-called substations where we can bring electricity in the city, or we're going to have two?
Yeah, so the head end is probably I'll say the weak point if something happens to the head end. But we have multiple pipes out from the head end, just like we have multiple feeds from TVA. Yeah. So, other questions?
Good discussion. Go ahead, Marna.
Dave, I'll be really quick. On the EPB stats, this, as I'm looking at it, the meters and the lights and the customers, those numbers seem, to me, which I don't do your line of work, they seem really low. And then we go down to the bottom of the broadband and the cable, that seems like a really high number to me. I think it's like 1,026. But is that because did you just say you feel like cable's just phasing out?
Say that again?
The cable down here at the bottom?
Yeah.
Those numbers have faded away.
Yeah.
At like 1,000.
Well, 3,800 to 3,200, so,
Well, I
yeah,
added them
600.
together. You're right, 600.
That's right.
Is that normal?
That's what's happening with cable, yeah.
So last year, like from 22 to 23, was that number around there?
It was probably, you know, I don't know what it was exactly, but I'm sure it was something like 4,500 for cable subscribers. It's dropping we track when we think it'll go to zero. And it's quite a few years out there yet, but the trend is down.
Looking
for sure.
about 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. And if you look at the number of customers we touch with broadband or cable, it's around 6,000. So when you take the 5,000 and the 3,000, some of those have both broadband and cable. Some just have cable, some just have broadband. We touch about 6,000 customers with the communications, and some of that's outside of the city. One thing I will emphasize, I guess, with our fiber to the home project is right now it's just inside our electric footprint. We're focused focused on serving the homes that are our electric customers' homes and businesses. Once that's completed, and we're well on our way with getting that done, we'll evaluate whether it makes sense to go outside of our electric footprint.
All right. I've got one question. It's a simple question, but I need simple answers on stuff like this. So I drive my electric car to the cultural center because it's about out of charge. I hook it up and it charges for 41 minutes like this person did. What does it cost me?
So it's, the rate is 35 cents a kilowatt hour.
Mm-hmm.
So it would really depend on, how fast the connection is with the car. It's going to vary from car to car. But generally speaking, a fully charged car takes around $17 to $20, it seems like, when I look at the numbers.
Okay.
It's quite a bit cheaper than filling the tank, but, it's not quite as convenient either, so.
And are things that cause that price to fluctuate at all?
Right now, our price is just 35 cents.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We looked at it just again the other day, and we see in their area anywhere from the low 30s to the mid 40s per kilowatt hour. And there may come a time when we look at adjusting it, but right now it's 35 cents is I think a good competitive price, and it works for us. So.
Well, certainly the volume is increasing quite a bit over there with people utilizing it for sure.
What's that?
The volume of people that are coming and using the charging stations is really continuing to climb very quickly.
It'll be interesting to see when we have the ability to compare, like November of this year to November of last year, and look at, December versus December, and start to get year-over-year comparisons. So, but I think it's been a great project.
How do people know that that is there if they're not from here?
Like with everything, there's an app for it. So if you have an electric vehicle, you have an app, and we're on that app map. So.
Yeah, because they have a way to track the zip codes and the states and everything from people coming over there. It's kind of neat. Yeah, it is. Well,
Everybody wants to stay somewhere off of 31E versus I-65 because of the convenience of being able to,
Yeah.
At least that's what I've been told.
Okay.
31E is better. 31E and 31W.
Oh, yeah. I think it's doing exactly what we hoped it would do. It's bringing people downtown, and they're staying. I don't have a lot of evidence of this, but whenever one of our employees has seen a vehicle charging, the person isn't with the vehicle. They hook up to the charger and they go somewhere. So chances are they're walking up to the square or walking somewhere in town. So.
that's good. Well, it's a really good report, and it's got to be exciting to be in an industry that's changing so rapidly, for sure. You have a lot, and your staff has a lot to keep up with down there, for sure. We appreciate bringing us up to date here, Dave, on everything going on with the EPB, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And again, if anyone has any questions for me, feel free to reach out. So.
All right.
Thank you.
Good report. I think we'll move to new business. Rich, we've got a municipal order to talk about.
This is our standard municipal order we adopt from time to time, enacting the supplement to our Code of Ordinances. That whereas the American Legal Publishing Corporation of Cincinnati, Ohio has completed the 2024 S58 supplement to the Code of Ordinances of the city, which supplement contains all ordinances of a general nature enacted since the prior supplement to the Code of Ordinances of this municipality. And whereas American Legal Publishing Corporation has recommended the revision or addition of certain sections to the Code of Ordinances which are based on or make references to sections in the Kentucky Revised Statutes, and whereas the Glasgow City Council intends to accept these updated sections in accordance with the changes of the law of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Now, therefore, the City of Glasgow does hereby order that 2024 S58 supplement to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Glasgow, as submitted by the American Legal Publishing Corporation of Cincinnati, Ohio, and as attached as Exhibit A is hereby adopted by reference as if specifically set out. So ordered by the Glasgow City Council this July 8th, 2024.
You've heard the municipal order enacting and adopting the supplement to the Code of Ordinances. I will entertain a motion that we approve that.
Motion, Lowry.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Vanel.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion on this municipal order? All right, if not, I will call the question. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we, in your packet, have some, the pending list of appointments per resolution for some of these municipal orders. Some of the people on the various committees will be having the second reading of those and voting on those at the next council meeting, which happens to be coming up on Monday, July the 22nd at 6 o'clock right here. We also are going to be hoping that everybody knows that Wednesday night we're going to be packed down here with the Louisville Orchestra. There's been a whole lot of, well, how do I say it? It's been published in 2 different time zones of what time the concert actually is. And I actually found one website that says it's at 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern, which is actually not correct. It's going to be at 7:30 Glasgow time on Wednesday night. So it's just one of those things that got published a lot of different places. University of Louisville, their PR department kind of changed the time zone on their own, but come on down here on Wednesday night. It'll be 7:30 kickoff for the Louisville Orchestra. All right? With that being said, we've got some calendars coming up that Councilman Norris asked to be put in here to the packet, so be sure and study those, and thanks to Mona for getting those in there. I will entertain a motion that we adjourn this particular meeting of the Glasgow City Council.
Motion, Kirkpatrick.
Is there a second? By Councilman Neal. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Thank you all very much for your time.